More Heart Than Talent Radio.
Jeffery Combs, president and founder, Golden Mastermind Seminars Incorporated, on our 4 o'clock Eastern, getting dialed in here, 4 o'clock on our Eastern Standard, More Heart Than Talent Live. Elaine, how are you? So there's Elaine, we have Gene, Aaron, Scott Huminski, Wayne Clark. Wayne, looking forward to our first coaching call. Dylan, move that arrow off right there, will you? I have Dylan Albertson. Say hello, Dylan.
Hello, everyone.
So this is Dylan Albertson. This is a Millionaire Apprentice. Dylan played professional football in Italy this year, 2019.
That's right.
Graduate of Central Missouri State University, the Mules. I'm a graduate of Northwest Missouri State University. His father and I went to college at the same time.
Yes.
How many interceptions in your career?
6 in my career.
So Dylan intercepted 6 passes in Division II, playing for the Central Missouri State University Mules. So that's very close to Kansas City, one of my home cities. So Dylan is riding shotgun in the background here, taking photographs and running the GMS office. So he's the straw that stirs the internet marketing.
We're crushing it.
We're crushing it. Boy, dude.
Every day.
All right, so let's get into the content here. So Dylan sets this all up for me. When those of you who come to Breakthroughs to Success, you will meet Dylan. Dylan is a long line of exceptional millionaire apprentices going back all the way to 1998. With Sean Crum was my first millionaire apprentice. Many of you met Ray Cataline, Richard Colfers, Alec Friel, David Harris, all exceptional men who have been here to support the GMS machine. So content for today is developing your self-esteem. Earlier this morning, I did some content on sobriety consciousness. If you want to watch that video, that was on Word is Law. Now, many people confuse self-esteem with self-confidence. As a matter of fact, earlier today, I explained the difference between the two for one of my clients. So you can be a professional athlete, or there are professional athletes, and they have self-confidence. They have swag. They have juice. They have appeal. They have the edge, and they can get it done in an athletic endeavor, in an athletic sport. But you've also seen some of these top-tier professional athletes, Tiger Woods, Kobe Bryant, and many players get suspended for PEDs, performance-enhancing drugs. They get caught with marijuana. And then there's a whole other situation, domestic violence, and some of these other situations. Even Steffi Graf was banned from tennis for a couple of years and lost her Nike sponsorship because of performance-enhancing drugs. So and many of them will say, I didn't know, I didn't understand, I didn't know it was on the banned list, I didn't know Adderall was a performance-enhancing drug. So it means that many people look for that edge to develop their self-confidence. So you can be confident and competent and still have very low self-esteem. Because professional athletes and top-tier entertainers are just like the rest of us. Many of them grow up in alcoholic homes, dysfunction, and their body started to react to the stimulus called fight or flight, and they're overwhelmed. And that's why you see many people sabotage themselves, meltdown, their pictures get taken of them, etc., even though they look glamorous. They're in the spotlight. Look at Heather Locklear, what has happened to her career. I remember 1986, I'm on the Strip in Sunset, on Sunset Boulevard, sitting right next to Heather Locklear and Tommy Lee, when she was really at the peak of her career. Now today, Google her. She doesn't look too good. I mean, this is what happens to a lot of good people. Charlie Sheen. So there's a whole host of people who hit a place called rock bottom. Now, if you're watching this content today, self-esteem means this. This is my definition of self-esteem coupled with David Hawkins' definition, and then other ways that I've read this. But self-esteem is self-love. So self-esteem has regard for self without ego, envy, jealousy, or selfishness. Regard for self meaning a relaxed regard for self, feeling good enough and lovable. Now, in self-esteem does not recognize rejection and abandonment. Self-esteem is humility. Self-esteem does not get humiliated. So self-esteem is not dependent on any outside influence, including outside love, because self-esteem is love. So when you love yourself, that doesn't mean you have an ego. It's your ego. Now, when I say ego, I'm not talking about arrogance or being eccentric. Ego is the lower self that we live in a place called anxiety, fear, and doubt. And it's that overwhelmed state, the emotions, that keep us perpetuating the same situation over and over. So here's one of those common terms. I'm actually going to write it down on my mini, M-I-N-I, whiteboard. Now my mini whiteboard, I'm a whiteboard, so here's one of those common situations that people say, I'm not sure I can, and so you can finish the words, can put myself out there. Now, I'm spelling this out for you for a reason. I'll show it to you. I'm not sure I can put myself out there. Now, what does that actually mean? I ask people this. Now, this is a very common statement. I'm building a business, but I'm not sure if I can put myself out there. Well, what does out there mean? Is out there in the stratosphere? Is it in the outland? Is it in the outfield? What does out there mean? Well, it typically means I'm not sure if I can be vulnerable. Well, if you're doing a Facebook Live, you're not being vulnerable, you're doing a Facebook Live. You're in front of a camera. But what many people do is they have anxiety about being judged. Well, I ask this, who's going to judge you? When I ask the question, nobody really knows. So that's the ego creating anxiety about an outcome that hasn't happened. And unfortunately, that happens to a lot of really good people, is their ego talks themselves out of any esteem. Now, esteem is robbed from you in the events that you're traumatized. If you grew up with critical parents, a critical brother and a sister, if you're born into a family where one of your brothers or sisters envies you or is jealous of you and they start to pick on you, this can have an effect on you. And this means that you start to worry and you start to live in fight or flight. You get overwhelmed. You get picked on at the playground. You're picked last. You're called a chubby child. You're overweight. You're overwhelmed. And you're too skinny. You're too thin. You're picked on. You're called names. This can have an effect on your esteem. And most of society lives in a low self-esteem and a low energy, transmuting their feelings in below 200 cycles a second in anxiety, fear, and doubt. Now, you can have confidence and be competent and have a job because you can perform and operate in the confines of that job. And you can be in that job even in fight or flight, and you can perform admirably, and the job will pay you what the job is worth. Now, if you have a relatively good job, you're going to get paid somewhere between 60, 80, 100, maybe up to $150,000. However, if you live in a metropolitan city, you'll more than likely be financially challenged unless you have a part-time business or some other ways to create income, because 100 grand just doesn't cut it anymore. Even though it once was a parameter for being a top-tier income earner, it's barely enough to just scrape and or get by. Now, when you enter a business, you require to understand, know, be aware of why you do what you do. Because if you don't, you'll perpetuate the same set of feelings over and over to create the same outcome. This is the value of coaching with me one-on-one, reading my content, listening to the audios, or getting mentored, or being part of a mastermind alliance, going to a 12-step program, any type of group or culture that fosters spirituality, recovery, sobriety, self-improvement can enhance your esteem. And your esteem is how I feel about self. But if you're in a mixed message saying, nice to meet you, I'm not good enough, let's go ahead and get this transaction over, and why don't you just reject me and I won't be able to ask for a commitment. That's what happens very frequently, because most of society is uncomfortable with asking for a commitment, asking for the order, asking for a close, asking the questions, because their ego says, I don't want to be nosy, get in trouble, make a mistake, get rejected, get abandoned, any multitude of situation that keeps you avoiding the process. So acute avoidance is called procrastination. The word procrastination comes from the Latin word procrastinare, to avoid. And if you're a chronic avoider or avoid in isolated areas, then what you will do is create a story and a situation not to fail and not to succeed. Because your lower self, which is your ego, once again, that's anxiety, fear, and doubt, that's driven by low self-esteem, by being rejected and abandoned, traumatized and abused, that ego, that lower self, will say, I'm not sure if I can be responsible. Another common statement that I've addressed for 22 plus years is a common one that people will say, well, if I'm successful, how am I going to keep it? Well, since you've never had it, that's not the issue. The issue is why you're overwhelmed and not pursuing success principles that will keep you in a success cycle. And if you avoid this cycle, you will never learn the skills, the habits, the repetition, and gain the experience to change your emotional state. Now, you can read the books, you can listen to the podcasts, the downloads, you can go to all the events, the rallies, conventions, but until you understand why you do what you do, your body will run your brain. Now, once you enter into this, once you enter into the let go process, letting go, once you enter into this, into the let go process, now once you move into that space, now you're into an allow space. You're going to allow yourself not to be critical. You're going to allow yourself to learn the skills. You're going to allow yourself to let go. Letting go is a skill, and it means separate. That means you move. You separate your feelings from events that shaped your anxiety. And in that allow space, you're elevating your consciousness. That starts to elevate your esteem. So your esteem is a direct reflection of what you understand, what you know, what you let go of, how you become aware. So if you're at the holidays and one of your parents, brothers, sisters, relatives makes a comment to you, provoking you into feeling bad, and if you feel bad, you've dropped back into low esteem. But if they say something to you to see if they can provoke you, and you use a statement that ends with a question where you're neutralize and detach, that's esteem. Esteem recognizes detachment. Detachment meaning that you're not attached to what someone thinks, says, or feels about you, and you can detach from that situation without personalizing it, meaning you're not making it about them or you. So you make it about you, you're being victimized, so you can become the victim, and then you feel bad. And if you're addicted to feeling bad, the body will run the brain and create ways to fulfill the feelings of feeling rejected and abandoned. So low self-esteem is the emotion of low self-esteem is anxiety. So it's an anxiety, but the emotions are rejection and abandonment. Then there's going to be grief and apathy, and then resentment. Those are the 5 main emotions that will affect esteem. Now, anger is an emotion, anger and hate, but resentment becomes the abiding, unresolved anger that's repressed and held on to. So you resent yourself and you resent others who've taken advantage of you, or you resent others who've become successful, or resent others who continue to succeed and you don't. Now, when you begin to address this and let go of the guilt, now guilt is what other people put on you. They use guilt to control you. Shame is what you've done to yourself, like like someone has violated you or traumatized it and you're ashamed of that. Or you've stolen money, or you've done something bad, or you harbor a secret and you hold on to it. That is shame. There's a difference between guilt and shame. So these are low levels of energy that foster low self-esteem. Now, in the laws of attraction that really break down to the science of attraction, you'll attract your reality, people and situations to fulfill your feelings that you transmute from. So if you're in a low energy, you're going to attract your reality, other like-minded, non-success seekers who chronically procrastinate to fulfill the same set of feelings that you're in. And you'll also tend to want to help people, over-obligate yourself, do more for others, so that your low self-esteem has a purpose. So the low self-esteem goes out and looks for someone that they can help, that they can rescue, that they can take care of. So it fluffs up your low self-confidence to make you feel like you're important, like you're really doing something. So this is how empowerment gets confused with helping. Now, once again, this is context. The Red Cross and the Salvation Army are absolutely great organizations that virtually help people, especially when they're down and out. There's homeless shelters. But when you're building a business, you're not in business to rescue and help people. You're in business to create profit. You're in business to be able to provide services, products, benefits, and features that will provide a solution and a result to people, so that people actually get a benefit from what they purchase from you, whether it's coaching, speaking, products, services, weight loss products, a feature, whatever it is you're selling. What you're selling is something that will enhance someone's life, resolve a problem, give them a benefit, a feature, and then you service that and add value on top of it, provided you don't go too far over the top. Well, that's how you can create a win-win situation. But when you're worried about an outcome, when you're worried about someone else failing, when you're trying to control the outcome because you're a low self-esteem, well, it's going to be a recipe for challenges. As you begin to recognize this, understand it, and understand that detachment means you're letting go. That's what detachment is. Detachment means you don't care. It means you care enough about yourself not to continue to perpetuate the same set of feelings to create the same outcome. And in esteem, in healthy esteem, you realize that your responsibility, your ability to respond, is you're not responsible for other people's actions and inactions. You're not responsible for their feelings. And in self-esteem, you seek no conflict. Self-esteem does not have to be right or wrong. Self-esteem does not recognize black and white. Self-esteem is not winning and losing. Self-esteem is self-love perpetuating an energy of power and consciousness. The power is not physical, it's not linear, it's emotional. So that power is charisma, it's love, it's sex energy. It's not sexuality, it's a sex energy that's transmuted between a nerve called the vagus nerve from the neocortex of the brain and your abdomen, the gut feeling. So that's intuition, extrasensory perception, that's inner knowing, that's wisdom, and that's the ability to connect. And in that type of connection, you can connect with people while being not attached, so that if the connection is not favorable, you can walk away from it, not feeling like you made a mistake, got in trouble, said the wrong thing. You're not worried about the outcome. Now, as you start to develop esteem, you will see your life change. You will see that there's less conflict. People do not upset you as frequently. So the people that used to violate you will actually eventually go away, because you're not giving them the neurochemical feedback that they require to stay in conflict with you. You're not playing the counter force to someone else's force any longer. You're virtually letting go. You're separating yourself, detaching from this type of communication. And as you do it with this person, then you can do it with other people. So that meaning you're not right. And you're on the airplane, and all of a sudden the captain comes over and said, "Folks, I'm sorry, we have a delay." And you're like, "Oh my God, this always happens to me." You don't panic as frequently, because you can just sit there and realize that this is one event in the banquet of your life, and it's not going to make or break your life. So you might miss a meeting, you might be late, but as you learn to breathe, abdominally breathe, in about 20 minutes, the captain goes, "The solution has been resolved to the problem. We will now be taking off in the next minute or two." See, an addict always wants a little more. Addicts do not have esteem. Addicts live on the cardio cocktail. They have confidence. They have high self-confidence, and they want to win awards. Now, there's nothing wrong with winning awards, but when you're reward conscious, oftentimes that's because your self-confidence has to have it. And you have to have that neurochemical high. It means you're recognition conscious. And then if you don't get the recognition, that means you don't have any self-confidence. By God, I'm going to win if it freaking kills me. Well, it might, because scars are souvenirs. You never lose. The past is never far. That's a line by the Goo Goo Dolls from the song Iris from the movie about the Earth Angels. So the more you understand cause and effect, why we do what we do, and you're not the mind-body connection to these events, then you're separating yourself. So self-esteem means that you can go anywhere in the world, and someone may say something bizarre, off the wall, to provoke you, and you're able to look at them, and you're able to go, "I understand," and you're not personalizing it, and you're able to sit there right in your power. Now, there's also a book by Robert Greene, written in about 2000, fabulous book called 48 Laws of Power. So one of the chapters calls "Keep Your Friends Close, Enemies Closer." Now, what that actually means is it means that you understand why people do what they do. It means that you're able to differentiate between a friend and a foe, and you're able to, through trust and intuition, you're able to trust people, but from a certain context that you can tell when someone is not someone you can trust. Oftentimes, trust becomes a black and white issue. I can't trust anyone. I trust everyone. Well, trust is like any situation. Self-esteem, you live in trust, and you can trust yourself on who to trust. And if you make a mistake, you're not going to criticize yourself. In self-esteem, you're able to pick up and move right along. So self-esteem is a high level of consciousness that allows you to be and stay in a state of flow. And it keeps you very grounded, and it keeps you in a place where people want to connect with you because they feel the energy that permeates off of you. And your ego doesn't require being fluffed up with recognition or reward. Now, oftentimes in self-esteem, you'll win awards without trying. You're not trying to win the award, and then you win the award, but the award doesn't inflate you. When someone compliments you in self-esteem, you're also able to accept the compliment. And if someone doesn't compliment you, you're not pissed off at them for not complimenting you, because self-esteem is not dependent on someone else's compliments. However, when a compliment comes, it's accepted. When a compliment doesn't come, well, then it's not rejected. That's what self-esteem is. Self-esteem is a very healthy middle ground of consciousness that's right here, that's in a very relaxed energy. People in self-esteem tend to live a very long, good life because they don't attract the same diseases, hardening of the arteries. They don't tend to attract high blood pressure. They don't get rattled. Their cage doesn't get rattled. They live in relaxed energy. They're not intense, and they're not win at all costs. I'm a recovering win at all costs kind of person. And I used to play for blood. I mean, I used to talk like this. And I used to want to kick my opponent's ass. Well, that was all part of the culture I grew up in. My father's a Hall of Fame coach, and that's part of the culture I learned. And that was, it's them or us, fellas. Play like a champion. You go down the Notre Dame tunnel, you're slapping that. Well, that's sports. That's part of sports. That's part of the lore of sports. But when you're in business, it's a different situation. You're not playing for blood. Your objective is to be able to attract world-class clients, great clients, and customers. Your objective is to be an ambassador of free enterprise, being able to promote good and wellness, and being able to promote camaraderie, and being able to create a culture of like-minded people coming together, forming a mastermind alliance. You're not in it to win it. You're in it to create prosperity for you and others. And when you come from that space, you're not in force. It's like, by God, I have to find someone today to buy from me because I require someone to buy from me to let me know I'm good enough. Or the other end of that is, oh, I don't want to find anyone to buy from me because it might make me responsible. So that's the two spectrums that as you move into the middle ground of it, you're right here and you're right now. Now, I'm a recovering anger addict. I used to be very intense. Used to grind my teeth. So Dr. Kelly Smallwood is on the Facebook Live today. She's an exceptional dentist and friend, client of mine. And she understands the term TMJ. I'm a recovering grinder. So when football, in high school football, I used to saw through my mouthpiece. I would go through them relatively quickly. And I started to realize as a senior in high school that I would saw through the left side of it. And then when I got clean and sober, I manifested a migraine headache that lasted several years. Didn't understand that it was a mind-body connection. I read a book called The Mind-Body Prescription by Dr. John Sarno in the mid-90s that allowed me to start to relieve that emotional pressure I was putting on myself. I was under a lot of pressure, all self-absorbed pressure because pressure is an illusion. And as I let go of that pressure, my headache miraculously went away. Now, these were 6-year headaches. I used to subluxate my L4 and L5 in my lower lumbar, and I used to subluxate C1 and C2 on the very side of my face that I would grind, and that's because of all the pressure I was under. Because I had spent 14 years as an addict, and by God, I want to be a millionaire right now. And so I was very, very intense, not that approachable. I could close sales, but couldn't really build a team that would stay together. The bottom of the team would fall apart because I had so much pressure on myself, and I wasn't the leader that I am today because I didn't really understand how to be a leader. I've been a producer all my life, and so I could produce in a snowstorm, I could produce in a rainstorm, but I really didn't know how to mentor anyone, and that was evolution. I didn't know how to lead anyone. I would lead from the front and then get pissed off and no one would follow, or I would do everything for them and then be pissed off that no one would do anything because I was doing everything for them. Because that's a control issue that an addict brings to the table. Now, as you're able to let go and separate your feelings from the events, you'll attract people who don't require being led. As you live in self-esteem, you start to change who and what you attract. And this holiday season, do your best not to let people get to you. Now, there's someone that you're already worried about the holidays. If you live in low self-esteem, you're already worried, or you want to get even with them, or you're going to have some comebacks for them. Well, let them go. Let go, and don't move into that energy. Move into the energy of love, peace. Move into the energy of consciousness, awareness, understanding, knowing, trust, and belief. As you move into that level of energy, then there's not going to be any conflict. People can't be in conflict with you if you're not willing to participate. And when you understand that key component, that's detachment. As you're able to detach from that situation, then you're not the mind-body connection. So that means that when someone cuts you off, you're not honking in the horn, you're not in road rage, you don't want to get even with them, and you don't follow them off the freeway. And you're not, have you ever ridden with someone that's crazy like that? It's amazing. Fortunately for me, that was not me. I had my own set of circumstances. I had my other idiosyncrasies, but that was not one of mine. But I have been around those type of people that are addicted to being right. And as you begin to separate your feelings from the events that shape them, you're not the mind-body connection, the mind-body connection. There's a book called The Mind-Body Prescription by Dr. John Sarno. This morning I was reading a book called Healing and Recovery by David Hawkins, which is a fabulous book. In the very first chapter, he breaks down the scale of consciousness. Now, I've been studying that scale for 15 years, and I'm hosting a Breakthroughs to Success. I believe it's number 129 this weekend, this December. It's the last 2.5 day event of my coaching year. So looking forward to the participants. There's going to be 25 like-minded entrepreneurs at this event this weekend. It's going to be an absolutely great time for them to break through, break down, let go, receive, and leave in a relaxed body. That is my objective, and to really foster the feelings of esteem. I want to thank you for being on today's Facebook Live. I will be here later this evening, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next Saturday, I will be in Yonkers, New York. I believe that's in the White Plains area. I'm very familiar with the area. I cannot wait to come there. It's been a long time since I've been in New Jersey and New York. I am now in the process of booking my schedule, next year's schedule. I will be, here's some places I will be. I've already booked Fort Lauderdale for January. I'll be booking Chicago, St. Louis, Kansas City, Los Angeles, and New Jersey. I'll be in Saddlebrook, New Jersey in February or March. So looking forward to seeing many of you on the east, west, and central part of the United States. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Love you. Good day.